The unspoken power of words. Burki. Words are not just sounds. They are living forces that shape the world around us and the world within us. Every word you speak carries a vibration, an unseen energy that leaves a trace on minds and hearts. When you say something, you're not merely transferring information, you're creating emotion. You're building or breaking, healing or hurting. And that is where the true power of words lies. Most people talk to be heard, but the wise speak to connect, to influence, and to awaken something deep in others. In psychology, it's proven that the human brain reacts to words the same way it reacts to experiences. Tell someone they are loved, and their brain releases oxytocin, the same chemical produced by physical affection. Tell someone they are worthless, and their body floods with cortisol, the stress hormone. Words literally change the chemistry of another person's body. They build trust, or they trigger defense. That's why silence often feels safer than Carol. SS speech. Because once words are spoken, they can never be taken back. The strongest people don't use words recklessly. They understand that words have weight. They think before they speak because they know that tone and timing are as powerful as meaning. It's not the word love that moves someone, it's the energy behind it. It's not the word sorry that heals. It's the honesty in your voice when you say it. Power doesn't come from volume, it comes from depth. The unspoken energy behind your words reveals who you truly are. When you speak from chaos, you spread chaos. When you speak from calm, you bring peace. This is why emotionally intelligent people are often so quiet. They don't need to fill silence with noise. They understand that silence itself is a form of strength. It's restraint, it's observation, it's control. People who master their words master their world because they no longer react. They respond. They no longer seek to impress. They seek to express with clarity. Ebrequa, inev. Airy conversation. There is an exchange of energy. When you speak with confidence, others feel grounded. When you speak with desperation, others feel tension. Subconsciously, everyone senses what you carry. Humans are wired for emotional synchronization. Your state becomes contagious. That's why calmness is magnetic. It signals to others that you are stable, secure, and emotionally in control. It's not charm that attracts, it's presence. It's not words that persuade, it's the calm beneath them. Hebrew, toxic people often use words as weapons. They twist them, exaggerate them, and hide manipulation behind charm. They know that emotions can be controlled through language. They use guilt, sarcasm, or passive-aggressive lines to keep others off balance. But here's the truth. You can't be manipulated if you understand the psychology of words. When you become aware of tone, patterns, and emotional cues, you see through the disguise. You realize that every toxic phrase is a reflection of their insecurity. Tai, not your worth. Awareness breaks control. Ibra. Every person you meet carries a story inside them, shaped by words they once heard. Some were told they're not enough, and they still believe it. Some were told they can rise, and they did. Words plant beliefs. Beliefs shape identity. Identity directs destiny. The most dangerous words are not shouted by others. They're whispered by your own mind. I can't. I'm not good enough. No one cares. These are invisible chains. Break them and your life changes. Speak to yourself as someone worth listening to. Your internal voice becomes your external reality. You attract what your words declare. The person who says, I'm unlucky, sees more bad luck. The one who says, I'll find a way, eventually does. Because words focus your mind, and the mind directs your behavior. This isn't magic, it's psychology. It's the reticular activating system in your brain which filters the world based on what you believe and say repeatedly. When you start speaking powerfully, your brain begins looking for proof of that power. The more you affirm strength, the more your mind finds strength. So speak with intention. Speak with purpose. Use words that move you forward, not hold you back. Replace I can't with I'm learning. Replace it's hard with it's possible. Replace I'm alone with I'm growing stronger. Each shift, however small, rewires your perception. And perception is reality. The more you speak growth, the more you see growth. Abur. The unspoken power of words lies in awareness. Awareness that every sound carries consequence. Awareness that even silence speaks. The people who change the world don't always have the loudest voices. They have the clearest ones. They speak from truth, not ego. From understanding, not reaction. Their words cut through confusion because they come from a centered mind and a compassionate heart. When you learn to choose your words with care, you stop wasting energy on noise. You start influencing energy with precision. You begin to notice when your words heal and when they harm. You start to speak less, but mean more. You stop trying to win arguments and start creating understanding. That's the difference between power and control. Control demands. Power inspires. Remember this, people may forget your name, your face, your achievements, but they will never forget how your words made them feel. Speak light when others speak darkness. Speak calm when others speak chaos. Speak truth when others hide behind lies. The echo of your words can last years after you've spoken them. That is your legacy, the energy you leave behind in every soul you touch. Evypoumpouras words are invisible keys. They open hearts or lock them. They build bridges or walls. They can turn strangers into allies and enemies into mirrors of understanding. When spoken with love, they heal wounds you'll never see. When spoken with hate, they create scars that silence can't hide. So speak wisely, gently, deliberately. Let your words reflect who you want to become, not what you've been through. Because in the end, the world listens, not just to what you say, but to the energy behind it. And when your words come from peace, they don't just attract attention, they attract respect. They attract trust. They attract souls who feel safe in your presence. That is the unspoken power of words. Silent, invisible, but unstoppable. Attraction does not begin with beauty, money, or charm. It begins with energy, the invisible language of emotion that speaks long before you open your mouth. Before a single word is spoken, people already feel you. They sense your calm or your chaos, your confidence or your neediness. Psychology calls this emotional resonance. It's the silent pull that decides who gets our attention, who fades into the background. Attraction is not about impressing others. It's about mastering the energy that silently speaks for you. Evypoumpouras. When you walk into a room, your presence says everything. Your posture, your breath in. Your tone. They tell the story of how you see yourself. Those who move with quiet confidence send a message. I don't need validation to feel valuable. That message is magnetic. People are drawn to it because it feels rare in a world obsessed with noise and approval. The more you chase attention, the more it runs from you. But the moment you stop chasing, it begins to follow. That's the paradox of attraction. It grows strongest when you stop seeking it. The foundation of silent attraction is emotional control. The person who remains calm under pressure instantly becomes powerful in the eyes of others. When others react, they reveal their weakness. But when you stay centered, you project strength. Emotional intelligence, the ability to manage your own emotions and understand others, is the core of true magnetism. People trust those who don't lose control easily. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel seen. Calm energy is a signal of self-mastery, and human beings instinctive. We gravitate toward those who seem unshaken by the world. Every interaction is an emotional exchange. You either uplift people or drain them. You either bring peace or tension. Your energy introduces you before your words do, and it lingers long after you leave. Think about it. Some people walk away and you feel lighter. Others leave you feeling anxious, confused, or small. That difference isn't luck, it's psychology. People who radiate peace do so because they've learned to control what's happening inside them. They no longer let toxic people define their mood. They no longer let approval decide their worth. They stand in silent power, the kind that doesn't shout, but speaks through calm presence. Evypoumpouras desperation destroys attraction. It's one of the most repelling energies in human psychology. When someone feels desperate to be liked, noticed, or accepted, the brain of the observer interprets it as weakness or insecurity. We sense when someone needs something from us emotionally, and instinctively, we pull back. But when someone seems at peace with themselves, without trying to impress or prove anything, our defenses lower. We want to be around them. Because deep down, we crave the same peace they project. Attraction is therefore not about pulling others toward you, it's about pulling yourself together. Evypoumpouras confidence is not loud, it's silent. It's the way you breathe, the way you make eye contact without fear, the way you stay comfortable in silence. True confidence doesn't beg for connection. It allows connection to happen naturally. Psychology shows that people who speak less but mean more are perceived as more intelligent, capable, and trustworthy. The quiet person who listens deeply often knows more about the room than the one who dominates it. Stillness is often mistaken for weakness, but in truth, it's strategy. When you're quiet, you observe patterns, you see motives, you understand emotions, and understanding gives you control, not over others, but over yourself. Toxic people thrive on reaction. They feed on emotional chaos. The moment you react, they win. But the moment you stay composed, they lose control. Your calmness confuses their manipulation. Your silence disarms their ego. This is the hidden psychology of attraction. Control your reactions, and you control the dynamic. Emotional maturity makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. People are drawn to what they can't easily figure out. When you don't give them the reaction they expect, they lean in closer, trying to understand you. That curiosity becomes attraction. The art of attraction, then, is really the art of self-mastery. When you manage your emotions, your presence becomes magnetic. You no longer seek to impress with appearance or words. You influence through vibration. People feel you. They remember your calm, your composure, your energy. You become the person who doesn't need to dominate a conversation to command attention. You don't have to chase payo. Plea when your silence speaks louder than their noise. There's something deeply powerful about the one who can stay still in a world addicted to attention. In relationships, work, or life, the same rule applies. People are drawn to those who bring peace, not pressure. Be the calm in a chaotic world, and you'll attract those who seek safety, not drama. Your aura becomes your introduction. Your consistency becomes your attraction. Every human being carries two energies, the energy of wanting and the energy of knowing. When you operate from wanting, you chase validation, approval, or affection. It pushes others away. But when you operate from knowing your worth, your values, your peace, you no longer chase, you attract. This is why emotionally intelligent people often appear mysterious. It's not that they hide, it's that they don't over-explain. They've learned that silence carries authority. True attraction isn't about looks or status, it's about emotional stability. It's out how someone feels in your presence. You can be beautiful and still be forgettable if your energy feels chaotic. You can be ordinary in appearance and unforgettable if your energy feels grounded. People may not understand why they feel drawn to you, but they will. Because energy doesn't lie. You don't need to force connection when your presence already speaks the truth. I am enough. And the silent psychology of attraction. And that is the silent psychology of attraction. It's not manipulation. It's mastery. It's not about pretending to be confident. It's about becoming so centered that you no longer need to pretend. When you stop chasing love, attention, and approval, you start attracting peace, respect, and loyalty. You stop begging to be seen because you've already seen yourself clearly. That shift, from seeking to being, changes everything. The world notices what you notice about yourself. When you radiate calm, the universe mirrors it back. That is the real secret. You don't attract people by trying to be more. You attract them by becoming whole. Calm is not weakness. Calm is power restrained, strength mastered, and emotion tamed into silence. It is the invisible force that separates those who lead from those who follow, those who react from those who respond. In a world that glorifies noise and speed, calmness has become a rare form of power. When everything around you shakes and you remain still, you become unshakable. Calm is not about avoiding storms, it's about becoming the storm's silence. Psychology tells us that calmness triggers trust in the human brain. People instinctively gravitate toward those who radiate stability. When you stay calm, others feel safe. When you panic, others withdraw. The brain constantly scans the environment for safety signals. Calm people send that signal. It's called co-regulation. When your calm nervous system stabilizes another person's chaos. That's why leaders, healers, and emotionally intelligent individuals all have one thing in common: an unbothered presence. Calm is magnetic, not because it demands attention, but because it gives others permission to breathe. Kibrer. Think about it. When you argue with someone who stays calm, you begin to feel foolish for losing control. When you face someone who doesn't react to provocation, you start to question your own emotions. Calmness doesn't just protect you. It influences the energy of everyone around you. It's a silent authority that speaks without volume. Toxic people can manipulate anger. They can twist your words, amplify your frustration, and use your reactions against you. But calmness, they can't touch it. Calm disarms manipulation because it removes the emotional fuel that feeds it. Hebrew. Most people mistake calmness for indifference, but true calmness is awareness without attachment. It's knowing that you don't control everything, yet refusing to be controlled by anything. Calm people are not passive, they are precise. They see the chaos, but they don't join it. They feel the tension, they don't feed it. This kind of composure is born from inner discipline. It's a decision to remain grounded no matter how loud the world becomes. Emotional intelligence research shows that calm people have higher levels of self-regulation. They pause before reacting. They breathe before speaking. They think before deciding. That pause, that small quiet gap, is where power lives. Because between what happens and how you respond lies your freedom. Anyone can shout, insult, or panic, but only the strong can stay calm under fire. Calmness is the proof of control. It's what turns emotion into strategy. In relationships, calmness changes everything. When you stop reacting to every mood or manipulation, you shift the balance of power. Toxic people thrive on your reactions. They want you angry, defensive, confused, because reaction means control. But the moment you remain calm, the game ends. Your silence becomes the loudest answer. Your peace becomes their confusion. Nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone who refuses to play their emotional game. Calmness doesn't fight chaos, it outlasts it. Even in your personal battles, fear, overthinking, insecurity, calmness is your greatest weapon. When anxiety rises, the body enters survival mode. Your breath shortens, your heart races, your mind spins. But if you train yourself to breathe slowly and consciously, you send a message back to your brain, I am safe. And when your mind feels safe, it regains clarity. That's the science of calm. It's not denial, it's biological self-command. Calmness also amplifies perception. In stillness, you see more. You notice details others miss. You hear what's not being said, because when the mind is quiet, intuition speaks clearly. Every wise decision you've ever made came from a place of calm, not chaos. Emotion clouds judgment, calmness clears it. The calm mind doesn't react to noise, it listens for truth. It sees patterns behind behavior, reasons behind anger, pain behind pride. That awareness gives you emotional X-ray vision. You start to see life not as chaos, but as coded behavior waiting to be understood. People often ask, how do I stay calm when everything is falling apart? The answer lies in acceptance. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your breathing. You cannot stop the noise, but you can choose silence. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of emotion. You can feel anger without becoming anger. You can feel fear without surrendering to it. That is the essence of inner strength, to experience emotion deeply, yet remain its observer. In a world addicted to instant reaction, calmness is rebellion. It's choosing response over reaction, peace over panic, clarity over confusion. It's walking away from unnecessary battles, not because you're afraid to fight, but because you've learned that peace is the ultimate victory. Calm people are not uninterested. They're unbothered by anything that doesn't align with their peace. They have learned that control is not about domination, but about discipline. There's a reason monks, martial artists, and true leaders all train their minds before anything else. Because calmness is not natural, it's cultivated. It's built through silence, reflection, and restraint. It's built by sitting with discomfort without trying to escape it. Every time you remain calm in the face of anger, you strengthen your inner muscle. Every time you choose silence instead of reaction, you reclaim your power. Over time, calmness becomes your default state, your natural shield against emotional chaos. Calm people don't need to prove themselves. Their energy speaks louder than their words. They don't need to chase attention. Attention finds them. They don't need to force respect. Respect grows around them like gravity. Because calmness is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. When others shout, they whisper. When others rush, they pause. When others panic, they smile. Catch. At contrast makes them unforgettable. Brie. So if you want to be powerful, start with calm. Learn to slow your reactions. Learn to listen more and speak less. Learn to let silence do the work. Because in silence, you gather energy. In calm, you gather clarity. And with both, you become untouchable. Calmness doesn't just attract peace, it creates it. It doesn't just protect you from the world, it transforms how the world reacts to you. And one day, when others are still chasing attention through noise, you'll realize something profound. Calmness was the loudest language all along. The one that spoke not through words, but through presence. The one that didn't seek power, yet became it. Because true power doesn't shout. It breathes, it listens, it waits, it stays calm. Listening is not hearing, listening is presence. It is the art of silence turned into understanding. In a world that rushes to speak, the one who listens becomes rare and therefore powerful. People think attraction comes from words, appearance, or confidence. But the deepest attraction comes from feeling understood. When you truly listen, you touch something inside another person that words can't reach. You make them feel seen. You make them feel safe. That is the hidden psychology of influence, not in speaking more, but in listening deeper. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. They wait for their turn to talk, building responses instead of connection. But real listening requires surrender. It demands that you pause your thoughts, silence your judgments, and give your full attention to another soul. When someone feels your full attention, they unconsciously relax. Their defenses lower, their heart opens. In that moment, trust is born, not from what you say, but from what you allow them to say. Psychology calls this active listening, but in truth, it's spiritual. It's the rare moment when ego steps aside and empathy takes over. When you stop trying to control the conversatio. And you start to feel the truth beneath the words, because people rarely say what they mean directly. They express through tone, pauses, and energy. When you listen deeply, you start hearing what they're not saying. You hear the pain behind anger, the fear behind arrogance, the longing behind pride. That level of awareness gives you emotional X-ray vision. You stop reacting to surface words and start responding to hidden wounds. Poumpouras. People hate good listeners. They depend on chaos, misunderstanding, and emotional noise to manipulate others. But when you listen quietly and calmly, their tactics fail. Because listening creates awareness, and awareness breaks manipulation. You start to see through their patterns. You notice the guilt traps, the emotional bait, the contradictions in their stories. You no longer get caught in their web because you no longer react. You observe. Listening is not submission, it's strategy. It gives you time, clarity, and control. Listening also changes relationships. When you listen, people feel valued. They feel important, respected, and emotionally safe. This is why listening is one of the most powerful forms of love. Not everyone needs advice. Sometimes they just need space. Space to be heard without judgment. You become that space when you listen without interrupting, fixing, or comparing. In that silence, healing begins, because people often don't need your answers. They need your presence. The best communicators are not the ones who talk beautifully. They're the ones who listen completely. The human brain releases feel-good chemicals when we feel understood. Dopamine and oxytocin, the same ones connected to joy and trust. That's why we naturally like people who make us feel heard. Listening is connection science. It builds emotional bridges faster than any clever word ever could. Listening also reveals intelligence. When you stay quiet, you learn. You gather information others miss because they were too busy talking. You see patterns, intentions, and emotions unfolding right in front of you. The more you observe, the more you understand how people think, feel, and behave. And once you understand people, you stop being confused by them. You stop taking everything personally. You realize that most people don't hurt you intentionally. They act from their own pain, fear, or ignorance. Listening replaces judgment with insight. In moments of conflict, listening becomes your greatest weapon. When someone attacks you verbally, stay silent. Let them speak. Let their emotion empty itself. The more they talk, the more their truth reveals itself. And the calmer you remain, the stronger you appear. People who argue with emotion lose power because emotion clouds logic. But the one who listens gains clarity. You cannot be manipulated when you see clearly. Listening turns confrontation into observation. It gives you time to decide, not react. Listening also connects you to yourself. When you spend quiet time truly listening to your thoughts, your body, your intuition, you begin to understand what peace feels like. You notice the noise of your mind, the fears that whisper, the desires that drive you. You can't change what you don't understand, and you can't understand without listening. Silence is the mirror of truth. It reflects what's real inside you. When you learn to listen inwardly, you no longer chase noise outwardly. In a world addicted to expression, listening becomes a form of rebellion. Everyone wants to speak louder, be heard faster, and prove something. But listening requires humility, the courage to pause and let someone else matter for a moment. That humility is powerful. It makes people trust you, confide in you, follow you. The quiet listener holds more authority than the loud speaker because they see the full picture before acting. They don't waste words, they use them with precision. Listening is not silence. It is active awareness. It's the discipline to observe emotion without absorbing it. It's knowing when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. Silence, when combined with understanding, becomes influence. It doesn't shout, but it changes hearts. Every great leader, teacher, or healer in history mastered this, the ability to hear beyond words. They listened not only with their ears, but with their eyes, their intuition, their heart. That's why their words later carried so much weight, because they were built on deep understanding. When you listen, you don't just hear people, you honor them. You give them something priceless, attention, in a distracted world. That's why listening is a form of respect, even love. It tells someone, you matter enough for me to stop and hear you fully. And people never forget how that feels. It softens anger, rebuilds trust, and deepens connection more than any apology or compliment ever could. So listen, not to reply, but to see. Listen to understand, not to defend. Listen to decode, not to react. Let your calm presence become the quiet space where others drop their masks. Because when you listen deeply, you don't just attract people, you transform them. You become the stillness in their storm, the peace in their chaos, the person who hears what the world ignores. Listening doesn't make you quiet. It makes you powerful. It gives you knowledge that others miss and empathy that others fake. It teaches you patience, control, and insight, the real tools of emotional mastery. When you listen, you don't need to dominate a room. The room naturally turns toward you. Because people don't remember those who talk the most. They remember those who made them feel heard. And that is the true secret of listen. It's not just a word, it's a way of being. When you learn to listen, you begin to understand. When you understand, you begin to heal. And when you heal, you become magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who gives peace through presence. The loud seek attention. The listener commands it. And that silent power, once learned, can move hearts without a single word. Enough. A word so small, yet it carries the weight of freedom. It's the quiet boundary between peace and exhaustion, between self-respect and self-destruction. To say enough is not weakness, it's awakening. It's the moment you decide that your energy, your time, and your worth are no longer open for negotiation. Most people spend their lives giving until they collapse, explaining until they lose themselves, loving until they're empty. But the ones who rise, the ones who become unbreakable, are those who learn to say enough. The psychology of this word is profound. The human mind constantly seeks acceptance, belonging, and approval. We crave validation because we are wired to survive in groups. But in modern life, that instinct becomes a trap. We overextend, overplease, and overgive just to feel seen. And slowly we teach others that our boundaries don't exist. Saying enough rewires cheech, the quiet kind that doesn't ask for applause. In psychology, this is called assertive detachment. You're not aggressive, you're not passive. You're calm, firm, and final. Your energy says, this is where it ends. Every person reaches a moment where their heart whispers no more. It's the moment when giving turns into losing, when love becomes pain, when patience becomes self-betrayal. That moment is sacred. It's the beginning of self-respect. Because the truth is, people treat you the way you teach them to. If you allow disrespect, it grows. If you tolerate chaos, it spreads. But the moment you draw a line, everything changes. Not because others suddenly respect you, but because you finally respect yourself. Psychologists say that people who struggle with boundaries often fear rejection. They associate no with loss, but real loss is losing yourself to please others. You can survive someone's disappointment. You cannot survive your own disconnection from your truth. Saying enough, an act of alignment. It brings your inner world back into order. You stop pretending, stop performing, and start living authentically. The energy that once went into pleasing others begins to nourish your growth. That's how people rebuild power, not through control, but through clarity. Hey bro, when you say enough, some people will leave. Let them. Two only stayed because you lacked boundaries, were never there for love. They were there for access. You'll lose manipulators, users, and emotional vampires, but you'll gain peace, freedom, and self-respect. The people meant for you will never fear your boundaries. They'll honor them because they have their own. The rest will disappear, and that's not rejection, that's purification. Calm people often carry the word enough like a quiet shield. They don't argue with toxic energy. They don't try to explain their worth. They simply withdraw their attention. And that withdrawal is more powerful than any confrontation. Attention is energy. And energy is currency. When you stop feeding drama, it starves. When you stop explaining to those committed to misunderstanding you, the noise fades. Your silence becomes your statement. Your peace becomes your proof. Learning to say enough also applies to your inner dialogue. How often do you let your own mind bully you? How many times have you replayed mistakes, doubted your worth, or compared yourself to others? At some point, you must whisper to yourself, enough. Enough guilt. Enough overthinking. Enough chasing perfection. Because the longer you tolerate your mind's abuse, the longer you stay small. Saying enough to your own negativity is self-liberation. It's choosing to become your own protector instead of your own enemy. There is a beautiful stillness that follows the word enough. At first, it feels lonely. You'll question yourself. You'll miss the chaos you were once addicted to. But then something magical happens. Clarity arrives. You start hearing your own voice again. You begin to notice peace in small things, in quiet mornings, honest conversations, or time spent alone. You realize that calm was never boring. It was healing. It was your soul recovering from years of noise. In this space of peace, your energy changes. You stop chasing, you start attracting. You stop proving, you start becoming. The world senses it. People who once intimidated you now respect you. Opportunities that once drained you now feel balanced. You've shifted from survival to sovereignty, from needing validation to embodying value. And all of it began with a single decision, enough. Ebert saying, enough is not the end of compassion. It's the beginning of wisdom. You can still love people and say no. You can still care deeply and protect your peace. In fact, boundaries make your love cleaner, no longer mixed with resentment or fear. You give freely because you choose to, not because you're trapped. You help without losing yourself. That's mature love, the kind that strengthens both giver and receiver. Abrar. In the end, enough is not just a word. It's a declaration of emotional independence. It says, I choose peace over pressure. I choose clarity over confusion. I choose self-respect over validation. It's a quiet revolution, one that doesn't need approval because it already feels whole. So when the world asks for more than you can give, when people cross lines you didn't draw, when your own mind turns cruel, breathe, stand tall and say it softly but firmly, enough. Because that single word spoken from truth has the power to reset your entire life. Thankful. A word that turns ordinary moments into miracles. It's not just a feeling, it's a frequency. A silent vibration that reshapes your entire reality. When you choose to be thankful, even in chaos, you activate something deep within your psychology, the mind's ability to find light in darkness. Gratitude doesn't deny pain, it transforms it. It doesn't erase the struggle. It redefines it. The world doesn't and when you say thank you, you do. And that shift is where real power begins. In psychology, gratitude is known as a rewiring tool for the brain. Studies show that consistent thankfulness reshapes neural pathways, increasing resilience, optimism, and emotional stability. It quiets the noise of scarcity and fear. It teaches the brain to see possibilities instead of problems. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start whispering, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single change in perspective transforms your suffering into strength. Thankfulness turns pain into wisdom, loss into clarity, and chaos into direction. The truth is, most people are trapped in the illusion of lack. They wake up thinking about what's missing, what they don't have, who didn't love them, what went wrong. That mindset drains life itself. It keeps you stuck in a loop of need and comparison. But the moment you pause, take a breath, and recognize one small thing to be thankful for, your my. ND begins to heal. Gratitude pulls you back into the present, and the present is the only place where peace exists. Toxic people hate thankfulness because it breaks their control. Their power depends on your dissatisfaction, on your hunger for approval, on your need to fix or prove something. But when you are thankful, you become untouchable. You stop chasing validation because you already feel full inside. You stop engaging in emotional battles because you no longer need to win. Gratitude is your quiet rebellion against manipulation. You no longer respond to chaos. You rise above it. Ibra. Being thankful doesn't mean you ignore your pain. It means you stop letting pain define you. It's looking at the wound and saying, "This hurt me, but it also woke me up." It's understanding that every person who betrayed you taught you how to trust yourself. Every closed door redirected you toward something better. Every delay protected you from what wasn't aligned. When you shift from anger to gratitude, you stop being the victim of life and become the architect of your destiny. That's the power of being thankful. It transforms your past from a story of suffering into a story of strength. There's a quiet confidence that comes from gratitude. Thankful people don't boast. They don't need to prove. Their calm energy speaks louder than their words. They walk with grace because they're grounded in truth. The truth that everything they need, they already carry within. When you live in gratitude, you radiate something magnetic. People feel safe around you, drawn not to your success, but to your peace. Gratitude doesn't demand attention, it attracts it. That's the psychology of silent influence. Energy speaks before words ever do. In a world obsessed with what's next, thankfulness teaches you to honor now. You begin to see beauty in the ordinary, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of your heartbeat, the peace of quiet mornings. You realize that happiness was never hidden in achievements or approval. It was waiting inside every simple moment you once overlooked. Gratitude slows you down. It reconnects you to life's rhythm. It reminds you that peace was never outside of you, it was always within, waiting for acknowledgement. The powerful truth is, you cannot be both bitter and thankful at the same time. The mind can only hold one dominant emotion, and whichever emotion you feed becomes your reality. Toxicity thrives on resentment, gratitude starves it. The moment you say thank you, even for something small, you interrupt the brain's stress response. You release tension, you breathe deeper, you return to presence. Over time, this changes not just your mood, but your energy, your relationships, even your physical health. Science proves it. The heart's rhythm stabilizes. The immune system strengthens. Gratitude is not just emotional, it's biological healing. But being thankful is not always easy. Sometimes life breaks you so deeply that thank you feels impossible. In those moments, gratitude becomes an act of courage. It's not about pretending you're fine. It's about trusting that the pain will make sense one day. It's about saying, "I don't understand it now, but I know it's shaping me." That kind of thankfulness, the one whispered through tears, is the most powerful form of strength, because it's born not from comfort, but from faith. Every person you meet, every experience you live, every storm you survive, they all come carrying a message, and gratitude helps you read it. The people who hurt you taught you boundaries, the failures taught you resilience, the loneliness taught you self-connection. When you see your life through that lens, you stop wishing for easier days. You start being thankful for stronger ones. Gratitude turns obstacles into teachers and endings into beginnings. It turns your scars into sacred reminders that you survived and grew. Abru in silence, gratitude deepens. You begin to thank even the moments hat broke you. You begin to see that life was never punishing you. It was preparing you. The pain carved space inside you for more understanding, more empathy, more light. Gratitude doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. It takes what was meant to destroy you and uses it to awaken you. That's why the most peaceful souls are often the ones who've walked through the darkest nights and still choose to say thank you. Not just for what you have, but for what you've learned, for what you've lost, and for who you've become through it all. Say thank you, not as a habit, but as a declaration of strength. Because gratitude doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes how the world responds to you. It turns energy into alignment, chaos into clarity, and fear into faith. And one day, you'll look back and realize everything that once felt like a burden was actually a blessing in disguise. You'll smile softly, not because life was perfect, but because you finally understood it. And in that quiet moment, your heart will whisper the two words that unlock peace itself: thank you. Emotional intelligence, the invisible strategy of power that most people never master. It's not about talking louder, winning arguments, or proving your worth. It's the quiet ability to feel everything without letting emotions control you. It's strength wrapped in calmness. It's awareness disguised as silence. Emotional intelligence is what separates those who react from those who lead themselves. It's the art of understanding your emotions so deeply that no one can use them against you. In a world full of noise, emotional intelligence is the quiet revolution. People who master it don't need to shout to be heard. Their presence speaks. Their peace unsettles manipulators because it cannot be controlled. They move differently. They observe before responding. They pause before reacting. They see through the surface of words and feel the truth behind them. This ability it's not born from weakness, it's built from self-awareness. It's the strength of someone who has walked through chaos and learned that peace is not found, it's created. Psychologically, emotional intelligence is about balance between two worlds, emotion and logic. Most people live trapped in one. They either overthink everything or feel everything too much. The intelligent mind merges both. It allows emotions to speak but not to steer. It listens to logic but not to the point of disconnection. The emotionally intelligent person knows that emotions are signals, not instructions. Anger says something's wrong. Sadness says something needs healing. Anxiety says something needs clarity. But none of these emotions should drive your life. They are messages, not masters. Toxic people thrive on emotional chaos. They study your triggers. They learn what makes you react. They turn your empathy into guilt, your passion into impulsiveness, your kindness into obligation. But the moment you develop emotional intelligence, their control ends. You stop reacting. You start observing. You respond with clarity, not emotion. You learn that silence can be louder than shouting. You realize that distance is not coldness, it's protection. The calm mind becomes your armor, and your stillness becomes your strategy. Emotional intelligence also means mastering the art of detachment. Not from people, but from outcomes. It's understanding that you cannot control everything, and you don't need to. You focus on your actions, not on others' reactions. You do what's right and let go of the rest. This detachment is misunderstood as indifference, but it's the opposite. It's mature care, caring deeply, but without losing yourself. You can love without chasing. You can forgive without forgetting. You can understand without agreeing. That's emotional power, soft but unshakable. Chi, self-awareness is the foundation of it all. When you know your emotional patterns, you stop being predictable. You notice. When anger disguises pain, when pride hides insecurity, when overthinking covers fear, you begin to catch your emotions before they explode. That's when you start choosing your response consciously instead of letting your emotions choose for you. This shift is freedom. It's how you stop being manipulated by others or by your own impulses. Because the greatest control you'll ever have is self-control. Science shows that emotional intelligence determines success more than IQ ever will. It influences how you lead, love, communicate, and recover. People with high EQ handle conflict with grace. They don't seek revenge, they seek resolution. They don't fight to win arguments, they seek to understand. Their power lies not in domination, but in regulation. They know how to stay centered while others lose balance. This calmness becomes magnetic. People are drawn to those who make them feel safe, understood, and respected. That's the silent influence of emotional intelligence. Invisible, yi. T, undeniable. Ket. To cultivate it, you must first learn to pause. That small moment between what happens and how you respond is everything. It's the space where wisdom lives. Most people skip that pause. They explode, defend, react. But emotionally intelligent people breathe. They observe their feelings rise like waves, then choose whether to ride them or let them pass. This conscious control rewires the nervous system. It reduces emotional burnout, builds resilience, and restores confidence. You stop fearing emotions because you no longer drown in them. You learn to surf the storm instead of being swept away. Another layer of emotional intelligence is empathy, not blind sympathy, but deep understanding. It's the ability to sense others' emotions without absorbing them. Empathy is power when balanced with boundaries. You can understand someone's pain without making it your own. You can care without carrying. This balance protects your heart while keeping it open. It allows you to CT deeply without losing your center. Emotional intelligence teaches you that compassion doesn't mean compliance. You can say no with love and yes with awareness. Ipera. Emotionally intelligent people also master emotional minimalism. They don't over-explain, over-justify, or overreact. They conserve emotional energy the way wise people conserve time. They know that not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves an explanation. Silence becomes their language of power. They understand that true emotional mastery isn't about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally intentional. Every reaction is chosen, not triggered. Every word carries weight, not waste. When you reach this level of emotional awareness, your relationships evolve. You stop chasing validation because you give it to yourself. You stop seeking constant approval because you've learned self-acceptance. You attract people who match your peace instead of challenge it. You stop trying to fix broken souls who don't want to heal. You choose balance over drama, truth over illusion, calm over chaos. Your emotional intelligence becomes your compass, guiding you toward what nourishes your spirit, not what drains it. The invisible strategy of emotional intelligence is simple yet profound. Control yourself, and you control the outcome. The one who stays calm in chaos is always the strongest person in the room. Emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about mastering your responses. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to walk away, when to forgive and when to forget. It's emotional precision, doing the right thing at the right emotional temperature. Over time, this mastery changes everything. You stop being reactive and you become responsive. You stop being impulsive and you become intentional. Life becomes less about control and more about flow. You begin to realize that emotional intelligence is not just a tool, it's a way of being. It's the quiet discipline that protects your peace, builds your power, and earns you silent respect. And when you finally reach that state, you no longer need to prove your intelligence or your strength. Your energy speaks it for you. You walk into rooms with calm confidence. You listen more than you speak. You feel deeply but stay steady. That's emotional intelligence, invisible to the eyes, but felt by everyone around you. It's the ultimate strategy, not for controlling others, but for mastering yourself. Because in the end, the greatest victory is not over the world, it's over your own emotions. When you can stay calm in chaos, kind in conflict, and clear in confusion, you've already won the battle that most people don't even see. That's the invisible power of emotional intelligence. Silent, steady, and unstoppable. The transformation within you doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you decide that your spirit will no longer bow to your circumstances. It begins in silence, in the unseen moments when you refuse to break, when you choose growth instead of comfort, when you whisper to yourself, "I will not stay the same." Real transformation isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It happens quietly, beneath the noise, in the mind that chooses to rise again. You don't transform by wishing for a different life. You transform by facing the one you have, completely, courageously, and without escape. Every struggle you've endured, every heartbreak, every disappointment was not punishment, it was preparation. Life breaks you in all the right places so light can enter through the cracks. The strongest people are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who learn to rebuild themselves differently each time they do. Transformation begins when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Psychologically, transformation is not the death of who you are. It's the shedding of who you no longer need to be. The brain resists change because it equates the familiar with safety. That's why you cling to patterns that hurt you, people who drain you, and habits that shrink you. But when awareness awakens, you realize that comfort is not peace. It's a cage. You start stepping into the unknown, trembling but determined. Growth always feels like loss at first, because part of you must die for something new to live. The greatest shift happens inside, long before anything changes outside. You begin to notice your thoughts, to question your reactions, to challenge the stories that once defined you. You stop believing every voice in your head that says you're not enough. You start seeing the difference between your true self and your survival self, the one built to please, to fit, to endure. And in that awareness, something sacred awakens: self-trust. That quiet, unshakable belief that no matter what happens, you will handle it. That's the seed of transformation. Most people wait for the world to change before they do. But transformation flips that script. The world begins to change after you do. When your mind shifts, your energy shifts. When your energy shifts, your reality shifts. Toxic people fall away. New paths appear. Peace begins to follow you wherever you go. This isn't magic, it's psychology. The reticular activating system in your brain starts filtering life through your new beliefs. When you choose growth, your mind begins to see opportunities where it once saw obstacles. But transformation is not always beautiful. It's often lonely. You'll outgrow people who once felt like home. You'll lose interest in conversations that used to excite you. You'll find yourself craving silence more than attention. This is the cost of evolution, the shedding of noise, the loss of what no longer aligns. Many mistake this silence for emptiness, but it's not. It's space. Space for something greater to arrive. In that stillness, your true self begins to breathe again. True transformation requires honesty. Brutal, unfiltered honesty. You must face your own shadows, your patterns, your fears. You must look at the version of you that settled for less, that tolerated disrespect, that ignored intuition, and say, "I forgive you, but I'm done being you." Healing is not always gentle. Sometimes it feels like breaking, but every time you confront a truth you once avoided, you reclaim a piece of your power. That's how transformation happens. Piece by piece, truth by truth, moment by moment. The beauty of transformation is that it doesn't demand perfection, only awareness. You will still have bad days. You will still feel doubt. You will still stumble. But the difference is, you no longer stay there. You no longer drown in old emotions. You rise quicker. You see lessons where you once saw losses. You stop needing closure from others because you've learned to close doors yourself. That's growth. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of resilience. And as you grow, US. Start understanding people differently. You stop judging. You stop trying to fix everyone. You begin to see that everyone is fighting silent battles they don't speak of. Emotional intelligence becomes your language. Compassion becomes your strength. You start loving without attachment and walking away without resentment. You understand that peace is not found in control, but in acceptance. Acceptance of what is, of what was, and of what will be. There comes a moment when you look back and realize you are no longer who you once were. The pain that used to paralyze you now motivates you. The chaos that used to consume you now teaches you. You stop running from your past because you've made peace with it. You understand that everything that happened had to happen, not to destroy you, but to shape you into someone unshakable. Transformation is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Psychologists call this stage integrati. When the old self and the new self merge, you no longer live in resistance, you live in flow. You stop fighting the current and start moving with it. You understand that growth is not a destination but a rhythm, expanding, contracting, evolving. You start trusting the process because you finally trust yourself. You realize that transformation isn't something you do, it's something you allow. The truth is, transformation never really ends. There's always another layer, another awakening, another level of awareness, and that's the beauty of being alive. You're a constant work of art, being sculpted by every experience, every loss, every moment of courage. Each time life tests you, you are given another chance to evolve into a wiser, calmer, stronger version of yourself. One day, you'll wake up and see it clearly. The pain that once haunted you has become your teacher. The wounds that once defined you have turned into wisdom. The people who once broke you have taught you self-respect. You'll feel a quiet gratitude, not because life was easy, but because you finally became the person you were meant to be all along. So, when life feels heavy, when everything seems to fall apart, remember this is not your end. It's your becoming. The darkness is not punishment, it's preparation. The pain is not destruction, it's direction. Every challenge is an invitation to rise, to release, to rebuild. Brew. The transformation within you is already happening. Every breath, every choice, every moment of awareness is reshaping you from the inside out. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to prove it. Just stay present, stay aware, stay becoming. Because the quiet revolution inside you will one day become the light that guides others. Proof that even in silence, transformation is the loudest thing you'll ever experience.